You guys can go ahead and share. It's live.
So when you say it's a distraction, what do you believe that our it is?
Our it? Ooh. I am no therapist and I'm not Dr. Phil, so I can't tell you what your it is, right? But I can tell you that I learned that the it was me. I was my distraction. I was my distraction because of comparison. I was my distraction because I believed that I was supposed to be somewhere greater and further than I was, but the truth of the matter is that I never put in the work to get there, first of all, and our journeys that we compare ourselves to are definitely different. We have different calendars, and I even had a teacher in college that would teach me. His name was Troy McCaff. He'd say, we're all born on different calendars. You will never be able to catch up with the time of another. And so, within that, I need you to understand that your distraction is you. And until you do the work to figure out these small, because they're small, they're very nitpicky. They're things that we don't think have become distractions, like social media, like multitasking. There's so many others, but until we do the work to find out what's really our distractions, and not what we're just saying we do this every day or we're making an excuse for, I believe that then we'll find another version or another level of ourselves. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited for this opportunity to share with you all to do what I do best, which is just talk about being creative and creativity and the journey that I have had as an entrepreneur. I have some very special guests with me tonight. I value the people in my life. I value my friendships. I value people who would take time out to share the knowledge and understanding that they have with me so that I can have an upper hand. And so I have three amazing people that are going to do that with us on tonight. In no particular order or fashion. You already have kind of heard from the man himself who is running this whole production for me, but Mr. Boss. I'm gonna read. I have their little bios, but I'm gonna put my own spin on it, of course, because we have such great relationship. But he's a wealth creative. He's the founder and visionary of Boss Visual Productions. He has gone from what could have been a story of failure and of sadness and turned that into a fight for success. And he's taken everything that he's learned and has a desire to give back to others who can't always afford to secure those dreams that they have. And so I'm very, very proud of him. This last November, he released his book, Officially Becoming Me. He eventually became, which if you have not read it, you should. You should purchase it and read that book. It's a phenomenal story about the journey of becoming that I think all of us can identify with. We all have had a journey of becoming who we are now, whether as an entrepreneur, whether as a creative, or just in life. So you definitely need to check that out. And so he's going to share with us tonight and give us some insight into his world, the world of graphic design, audiovisual, and all that creative stuff that he does. Then we also have Nicole Henry, who is a passionate advocate who uses her own life experiences to inspire and encourage others to achieve and overcome adversities. She has over 20 years of experience with nonprofits in the social service sector. She has also learned many valuable lessons over the years that have shaped her into the leader that she is today. As one that believes in lifting others, as we climb, she is now sharing with others the wisdom that she's gained through her signature workshop, Dream Catching, and the one-on-one strategy sessions. She continues to dedicate her life to helping others overcome adversity, to fulfill purpose, and to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. I can also say, having Nicole in my life, definitely when she was talking about those one-on-one sessions in that signature workshop, she has a special, unique gift for casting vision and for helping someone who may not quite know what their next is or what things look like, or you kind of scatterbrained to hone that in. So it's going to be great to hear from her tonight as well. And then last but certainly not least, we have Libra P. Green, who is affectionately known as the Note Taker. She's a licensed chemical dependency counselor and certified anger resolution therapist. But also, besides that, she has her own brand and business. She's a creative strategist and a publishing consultant with 30 plus years of experience in the field of journalism. Recently, she collaborated with some other phenomenal women in an anthology entitled Women for Women, a devotional, and currently provided speaking engagements to share her story. Beautifully Human, Living Beyond Labels. As the CEO and founder of Soul to Soul Publishing House, her vision is to prepare, propel, and to promote individuals to define the moment and to write the vision and live their story. Um, Libra is a phenomenal writer and scribe. We have worked together on so many things, things that are to come with this as well when it comes to the structure of what we're going to be talking about, having things tangible, workbooks, and tangible things that you guys can walk away with this. You can thank Libra for a lot of that we're going to get into. She helps me hone in what's in my mind and put it on paper. So those are the three guests we're going to have with us on tonight. I'm excited to share and to speak with them and to talk about what it means to be creatively structured. So I'm going to get them to join in with me here. Hi, Nicole. All right, they're popping in, and you guys can unmute yourselves because we're going to talk freely tonight. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Wonderful.
Good.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
I thought I would start us in a very easy place. I say easy, but sometimes it's hard to know what the goal is because we don't know the definition. And we all know we've heard you have to define a thing to know what a thing is and to accomplish it. So just starting off, structure has two tenses. As a noun, structure is the arrangement of and relationship between the parts of elements of something that's complex. I love that because it tells us that structure, first of all, is a smaller part of a whole, and that thing is complex. I think we can agree when we're talking about creativity, entrepreneurship, or anything of that sort, it is complex. So structure is breaking that down into smaller parts, and how those parts relate or how we arrange them. And then it also has a verb, to construct or to arrange according to a plan. So that implies that you got to have a plan so that you can do that. And then it's also to give a pattern or organization to. And so you got two great definitions. One is how we're going to arrange and structure a thing, and the other is how we take that thing into parts because it's so complex. Um, Easy question. First question: how do you guys feel about that definition? Or is that what you think of when you think of structure? I guess to make it orderly, we can start with Nicole.
I like that. I like that definition, especially the part when you said it's a smaller part of a. I like that, especially when you say it's the smaller part of a whole. I really like that definition.
Okay. Miss Lieber, what do you think about that? And it could be either or both definitions.
Um, I believe that it's the piece of the piece
Gotcha.
of the whole thing. A lot of times, structure could be the defining moment, but also if you don't have the pieces to connect to make the whole thing worthwhile or what it really is, you're still missing something in the midst of it all. So your definition of structure is really clear and concise, but it's also cutthroat, if you will, because if you're not realistic about structure, you still gonna miss it. If that
Absolutely.
makes sense. Okay.
And Elrico, your thoughts on the definition of structure? Uh-oh, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now we can.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm one to go against everything, right? So you just gave two definitions. Um, However, I don't disagree. But structure is actually one. It's like an atom, and the word structure is actually in the definition of what an atom is, and it's literally the
Hmm.
building up of something.
Mhm.
And here's the crazy part about it: if you don't have enough, and if there's not everything in place, those atoms will never come together and work. So
Absolutely.
I
Hmm.
agree to both of those definitions, but I wanted to kind of just break it down a little more and help others understand what it really could be, because that's what it really is. It's the building up of something.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's what I love because those are dictionary definitions, but sometimes that's not all that something is. And that's kind of the point of this
Hmm.
discussion, that we all have our personal journey and definitions of what structure is for us. So that's our starting point about what a definition of structure is. Um,
Hmm.
and I did everyone's introduction, a little bit about myself for those that don't know. I am a creative at heart. Whether it's music, I do write music. I am a singer. I'm worship leader. I'm a background vocalist. I've worked in that field. I've dabbled in pretty much everything. I've done the creative design part of it. In 2019, I started this brand, Creative Collective Group, because I really have a heart to see creatives to be able to walk out their vision. I realized early on that my call and my purpose is to help others birth their purpose. And I find fulfillment in helping others. And so it started off like all dreams do, hard work, determination, piece by
Hmm.
piece. But with the grace of God and just I'm ever learning and humbling myself, I was able to grow it to what it is today, to where I have clients across all industries and fields, from entertainment to media, that I help them to just make sense of what they do. Um, in anything that we do, no matter what the industry, whether it's ministry, marketplace, or anything, we need structure. And so my goal tonight is that everyone who watches walks away knowing what structure is and that you need it. And whatever you do, you need structure, and that the goal of having structure in place is to make your job easier and to make you more efficient.
Mhm.
So I want to tackle a few things in that, guys, about talking about structure. And if you saw when I made a post about the live, one of the things that I said was that an untrained or unstructured gift is limited and even dangerous. And I think that's a very profound statement. And I think some people may look at that and be like, whoa, that's a bit extreme. But I truly believe that. And we can all look at children. Children start off young, they have access to a lot, and they have a lot of things at their fingertips, but they don't have wisdom. And so it's a reason why, as adults, as parents, or whatever role we play in their lives, we streamline and we guide them through certain things, but they have to have the wisdom to go with the access they have. And I believe the same thing for creators and entrepreneurs. When we start a thing, we take word from the mentors we have in our life, and we do our Googles and we do our research, and then through experience we learn how to hone in on that thing, and that's why we're always more efficient later than in the beginning of a thing. And so just a quick opinion on that from you guys. What do you feel about that? Me saying that someone who is unstructured or untrained is limited, but also possibly dangerous. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'll take the start. Um, since she began the other, but I'll say it like this: the limitations are the danger. That is the first thing. That's the first thing you need to understand tonight. That the limitations are the danger because you have so much more. And I was in a conversation the other day, and we was talking about how come we only see what we think is the sky, but it's not really the sky. There's far beyond that we actually see, but we were taught that the clouds are just the sky. But how is there then we can go up beyond the clouds in a plane or go up beyond, the hemisphere in a rocket? The limitations are the danger.
Okay.
I'd say that the danger with not having structure is that it does limit you, because you can be unstructured and be untrained, and and
Mhm.
run wild with it and accomplish things. But if you put structure to it, you will be able to go so much farther, and make better use of your time, make better use of your efforts. If
Mhm.
I'm going somewhere I've never been before, and I get in my car and I say,
Mhm.
okay, I know I'm going to the Reunion Tower downtown Dallas, and I'm in Arlington, and I just know it's somewhere 30, east, and I just, start going, and I'm just
Mhm.
driving. But if I put in my GPS, I know, where traffic is. It's going to reroute me when, there is a stop, there's delay. It's going to tell me when there's police, on the road. It's going to take me the best route. So you can still accomplish things without having structure and not having planned and not, having these things in place. But you'll go much farther, much quicker, if you have the structure in place.
Gotcha. Miss Libra.
The danger about not having structure is you'll be all over the place. And I'm saying that from personal experience, because of the fact that there's no defining moments as far as what is the vision, what is the mission statement, and what steps do you need to take to get the vision accomplished. Oftentimes, not having structure will leave you in a form of distress, despair, and then also derailed because there's no structure. There's no opportunities to even try to implement systems and strategies to make a structure come to life, if you will. Um, we could use the pandemic for an example. A lot of us didn't have no structure. We weren't expecting the pandemic to hit. For me personally, in my field as a substance abuse counselor, we didn't have a system in place. And for me to get 14 offices to manage on my own, um, was very despairing, but it was also something that challenged me to create a structure, if you will, for not only for myself, because I don't have an administrator, it's just me, but also to create a structure for 14 different offices that I oversee to make sure that clients are being referred and assessed and make sure they meet their requirements, if you will. So the danger of not having structure can literally derail you to the point of where if you're not careful, there is no point of return, or it's hard for you to bounce back because there is no structure in place.
Got you. And I love it. You can tell that Libra is a minister of the gospel because those three alliterated points blessed me real good. But that also, she kind of also moves me into my next point. Um, I'm going to give, so to give some overall context tonight, at least, we can't cover
Mhm.
everything. I don't want to be on here all night. But just, I have kind of three areas that I want to kind of focus on, and then we can move around in those areas. So tonight I want to talk about capacity, expectation, and then overall structure. And so everything that we talk about is kind of be in those areas. But Libra started kind of in the beginning talking about when you start off something and you give structure to it, what do you have in place? She talked about mission statements. Um, we are very great at having ideas. We don't have a shortage
Yeah,
of activity and ideas. We have a
right.
shortage of structure and organizing those ideas and putting feet to them. Um, I'm sure you've heard the statement that the graveyard is the richest place because there's so many
Mhm.
dreams and visions that never took life. And so, with that being said, I kind of want to talk about which structure. There's the who, what, how, and when of structure. What's the process? Do you have an SOP? Everything should have that. These are things that we, unless you really go and study, you start a business or an idea, you don't know where to start. So you have a name, and you could get your name incorporated, and that's great.
Mhm.
From there, what's your mission statement? What's your purpose? What's your standard operating procedure? How are you going to do what you do, whether it's selling services or products? And that's something I had to learn the hard way. And you all can kind of talk about, I kind of in your bio, I guess, kind of gave a snippet of it, but what your product, even if that services is, but you have to start somewhere and know your structure because that's when we can get into expectation and capacity. So for the three of you, when you started off, did you know that, okay, hey, I need to have a mission statement. I need to have a standard operating procedure. I need to know day one, or did that develop, or how did that come about for you? Anybody can jump on it.
Well, because of the work that I do in my 9 to 5, I knew the importance of having those things up front and that they provide the roadmap that you need along your journey. Um, so when I started my extracurricular things I do on the side, I did start out with that because having that vision statement, having that mission statement, or having that big goal, the idea of what you want to do, that's what guides you, so that way you're not all over the place. And that's because sometimes we have ideas, and they once ideas start to flow, when you're a creative, they just come. You can be walking down the street and a leaf blow by, and you think, oh, you think about fall, and oh, I need to do a similar a live on changing seasons, and your mind goes, and you've been thought about the background, what you're going to have on it, what you're going to call it, and all of that. But you're going to talk about changing seasons when your whole business and your whole brand is about automotives. It's something that has nothing to do with but when you're creative, those juices flow. And so having those things in place kind of keep you focused and uh aiming at the right place, and you're not just all over the place. Because we're going to have a lot of ideas as creators. We're going to have ideas that just come. And then there are times, I encourage folks, when you get those ideas, to write them down, because although it may not make sense right now, later on as you get down your journey, there's going to be something and you think, oh, okay, that's why I saw that leaf that day 2 years ago, and now it makes sense, and now it fits. So I always write things down, but those things, the mission statement, vision statement, guiding principles, your plan, those just kind of help keep you on track, so you don't get easily derailed. Um, to borrow from Libra and her alliteration, so you don't get easily derailed as you're going along the journey.
Okay, and I'm watching the comments as well, and David was talking about structure also being a protection, offensive protection, and we can take that either route. We can take it the spiritual route, I'm sure, even just in the natural, having your ducks in a row, having structure, and we're going to talk about some of those things as far as legality and stuff, but those things keep you protected. We're going to talk about deadlines and turnaround periods and stuff, and that kind of stuff keeps you protected from having issues down the road. But then, even with that, which I'm going to hint at a little bit later, we have to be reasonable in those things. And that's part of the maturity of structure, because you got to know how to operate and to not overshoot a target. So that's going to be really, really important as well. So question, Libra kind of, she was in my notes. She kind of got to that point already, but does anybody out of the three of you have an administrator outside of yourself?
No.
In my side business, I've got to figure out what I'm going to call
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
in that, I don't. But in my other world, I do. And having that administrator is helpful because it's you need support, and you need somebody to bounce ideas off of. You need somebody to do tasks that may kind of bog you down and to leave you open to be creative and focus on the big picture.
Got you. Okay.
I
Rico?
can yeah, so I've actually been working on that. But I do. I have an administrator outside of myself. And the funny thing is, it's been hard to listen to them. Okay, I'm gonna point that out because we saying put all this stuff in place, but it's sometimes hard to hear, hard to listen because we
Mhm.
are the boss. We know what we want. But we also have to trust that structure. We have to trust that foundation that we put in place. So I've learned that, and I see in the comments too that David said focus brings consistency. And the one thing I've learned is being all over the place. I couldn't get everything I needed out. So because all day I'm a creative, I'm a wealth creative. This is why there's not just one title on my name because I do 1,000 things. If you could think of it, I'll do it. And I'm a one man band. But it comes a time when you do need a team. So I have been putting that place and team. Um, of course, we're going to talk about all the other things, but yeah, definitely, I've started to grasp a hold of the importance of having that team.
And you said something there about being a part of what. So for me, and I've struggled with it as well. Everything that we're talking about and everything that I usually speak out about, I try not to speak about what I don't know. I learn from experience. And for me, I've learned that most creatives are not great at administration, because you are a creative, you're a left brained thought person,
Yeah.
and pulling that in, because what administration really is reining that, holding that in, reining it in to something that's tangible. um, I think and I'm not the only one, but I have a
And
unique
and the
ability.
disciplinarian.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think I'm not the only one, but I have a unique ability to be able to pull in both. But that's through practice. And something that I was hard for me coming into business was I know how to be a great administrator for other people. And so then to have other administrators working for me was
Yeah.
difficult because I
Right.
like things a particular way. And it's always easier to give instructions than to receive them. But I
Mhm.
realized that I had to trust. There's a trust there. And sometimes things do fall through the cracks and you have to let it happen so that they learn. So when I was training my administrator, whoo, it was a lot of grace, much grace. Because you want them to get it. And you can't be almost like a kid. You can't take stuff from them every time that it doesn't work the right way. You have to let them walk it out, even when you're giving instructions. So That was a difficult thing for me to kind of learn, because I'm very big on structure and things making sense. Um, Kind of in the guise of what we're talking about when you start off your business, and we talked about, yes, you do when you start, as much as you have a plan and a goal in place and a business name, you should have a structure of, this is our mission statement. This is our target audience, our target client. This is who we want to reach. If we're real with, this is 2023, and we can be honest in the fact of when we put out something, whether it's product, merchandise, or services, it's not for everyone, and everyone won't participate. So then when we create something, you create it with a client in mind. There's nothing wrong with expanding your reach and having that desire, but you create it with a person in mind. So we have to be very careful that when we do that mission statement, what do we do, who we are, so we're very clear. And then also, who's our target? Who do we want to reach? That's very important. It's not going to reach everyone. But then structure for our personal business. What's our standard operating procedure? Day to day, what does things look like for us overall? If we are an event planning company, when we first take on a person interested in an event, what do we do? And so I kind of want to walk through some of those steps with you guys. For you and your personal entities, what's that first contact look like? What's your process or system for first contact? And I'll delve into a little bit more. By what I mean is, do they, if they go to a website and sign up and just say, hey, I'm interested, is the follow up, I call them and we talk and discuss from there. Is it a form that they fill out? What's your first contact look like for someone interested in your services? And I'll start that one with Libra.
Well, for me, on the 9 to 5 position, is nothing that they personally do. It's already generated by the state. It comes directly to me based upon the zip code, and by me covering now 8 offices, it's populated by that, and then I get it, and then just go from there based upon the information sent to me from the headquarters. And then what they do is their assigned person sends me the supporting evidence of why I get what I get, and then as the substance abuse counselor, I provide treatment in that aspect. Administration is just that I'm the only person doing all this lead work, but we communicate and collaborate as well to make sure effective communication is taking place, not only for the sake of us as the professionals, but also those who are receiving services. Now, you may come across a situation where a client may need additional services, then that client meets with me one on one, and that lead person doesn't have to be involved with that because now we have signed records, making sure forms of confidentiality is covered, things in that nature, right? So that's the 9 to 5. As far as me personally, I am in the process of restructuring my business. The first main contact is um, pretty much email. Just introducing myself, making them aware of what I do and what services I provide. If there's a consult needed, then they get 15 minutes free, just to give them lead work of what we do, what we can provide for them. Because oftentimes, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm a writer, but in reality, they might not be a writer, but you don't want to discourage them, because of the fact that you don't know what processes, especially mentally, they had to go through just to get to the point to where to motivate themselves to write. So it may be other things they may want to do or see interest in, they just not aware of it. So that's where redefining the moment come apart, just to help them to understand that just because you might not per se need to be a writer or even a author, if you will, they might be a motivational speaker, but use their content, like for example, an ebook to help them push and promote whatever their goals, dreams, and aspirations are in life. So there are different avenues I take as a consultant, but that's where the creative strategies come into play because all the creative ideas, but it all comes from the person themselves. You don't really treat one person the same as the other because the background of the individual may not be the same. You want to meet the needs of the person right there where they are. You don't want to take them too high to where they feel like they're gonna fall, but you want to you want to progressively guide them along the way. That's where soul to soul comes into play, because Jesus walked through and he never stayed in one place. He also ministered to the people, and the people that he ministered to, they also spoke about the ministry of Jesus. So that's where the taking one journey experience and then encouraging, motivating others to do the same, to go forward. He never went backwards. So it's just really about collaboration. It's about consultation, but it's also about communication and how you meet those needs. It could be a form of communication. It could be one-on-one, meeting them for the first time. It could be email correspondence. When everything is processed, they could go on the website and they could fill out a form, or they could just pretty much contact. They could contact me through Facebook. They could contact me through Instagram, and then they'll also soon be contacting me through Linktree. So it's all depends on what a person is and how they are. Because some people are not computer savvy, so you just don't want to be narrow minded saying that it's just computer. No, it could be a phone conversation. It also could be one on one as well.
And I'm gonna jump in on what you just said because it goes back to what I mentioned about your target audience. So depending on you knowing who your target is, then you know whether it's a generational thing or just a location geographical thing. Everyone doesn't have technology, and so you market in such a way and you set up your structure in such a way that you can reach who your target audience is no matter where they are. Like you said, whether it's via phone and text and message and all those different avenues. So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about setting yourself up for success with your target audience. Um, I want to talk about, and I'm gonna get to the other two as well about how your initial that first contact is by talking about capacity. Um, we can do about a show of hands. Who here has experienced burnout? And I can raise my hand. um, it may be an oversimplification, but to me, burnout comes from a lack of structure, or the correct structure, and a misunderstanding about capacity. And so I want to talk about capacity, um, and I want to put it under the umbrella of determining your realistic capacity with room and margins for error, but also for change. So I can say for me, the number of clientele that I can handle now, of course, is not what I could handle in the beginning. When you do a thing, you become more efficient, and you know how to do it quicker, and also more efficiently. But just off the top, me and we've talked about a few of us who are a party of one. Until you got to a point to having a team, I had to be very realistic about how many people I could handle at one time, depending on what those services were, because I offer a variety. So if you need something that's very comprehensive versus two people who just need a little bit of assistance or some training, if you've followed me through my journey of this business, we often talk about the difference between coaching and consulting. And so that takes different time, and one is much more extensive than the other. And so I've learned that I have to give myself realistic capacity, but also that things can go wrong, but things can change. I have clients that started off with, oh, I just want this a la carte service, and then end up with full services. And so if you've taken on more than you can handle, that kind of happens. Nicole, I am sure in your line of expertise that you've dealt with that as far as capacity and how much you can handle. And the growth of your capacity can change. Can you tell us a little bit what that looks like when you're setting up structure for capacity and knowing what you can handle?
You are absolutely right. Capacity can change. It changes as we evolve and get older. I just a quick example of how capacity can change. I remember being in school, being in grad school, working full time, coming home. Um, I had a toddler, and I was, very active in my church. And on the weekends, if it wasn't something going on with church or my son, then I also had working on my practicum hours for the graduate program. And I was just going, 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 going. But then I graduated, you know, and I remember about a year after I was trying to do something on the weekend, and I was so tired, and I was like, oh my God, I'm just tired. And then I thought about it. Now, before I was getting off work, getting home, getting dinner made, then going to school for 3 hours, coming home, getting our things ready for the next day. And I was going 7 days a week, nonstop, and felt fine. But then here it is now. Listen, I need a nap sometimes on Saturdays. I sometimes on Sundays I need a nap. I need to take a break. So capacity does change, and that's okay, But when it comes to figuring out your capacity, I think it's trial and error, and you have to be wise. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to take a break and take a step back, because there are times when we're working on a project that needs our full attention, and so other things have to kind of be set to the side. At one point, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was getting to a point where I felt overwhelmed, and it was because I had my 9 to 5. I had a nonprofit I had just started, and then I had the giving circle. I started a giving circle in 2016. Then I had that, and then on top of that, any obligations to church and ministry. And so 2020, I thought I'm going to have to start getting some things off my plate. And so I put a president in place over the giving circle, and I started making sure that others could help me with the nonprofit that I had started, and just started, delegating some things. That's why you need help, and that's why you need support, because I felt like it was so much. But unbeknownst to me, 6 months into the pandemic, I got this big promotion at work. And so it was perfect timing. I needed to have gotten those things off my plate so I could do this thing over here. And then here I am, I found myself again with full-time work, and a couple of nonprofits and volunteer work and ministry work and all these things. And right now, what I'm wanting to focus on requires 100% of my focus. So I'm having to put some things to the side, and that's okay. So it can change. Just be attentive when you sense there needs to be a change. Talk to others. I called a couple of friends, like, this is what I'm feeling, and I don't know if it's burnout, I don't know if it's frustration, I don't know what it is. And then I realized it was too much on my plate. It wasn't that I was so much burned out on any one thing. It was just so much. And so I needed to reduce some things down, and then make sure I worked in there some time for me, because everything I was doing was outward and for all these projects.
I love it. That was a great example for me because, like I said, we've all started somewhere. And I completely agree with you as far as capacity being trial and error. Because you never starting off on a new thing you don't know, especially if it's something you've done well. And we know a lot of businesses and stuff become a business because you do something for one person and you do it really well, and that person tells somebody else. And doing something one-on-one for a person and then turning that into a business is different. And so then we're like, okay, well, it could be baking cakes. Okay, I can bake cakes and I'm good at it, so I can just crack these out. So when we start a business, and then you sit down and realize, okay, I didn't make a formula. I didn't say, okay, it takes me this much time to go shopping for the ingredients, and it takes me this much time to make it, and I have to dedicate this much time per cake. So when it comes to my capacity, we don't do an equation, and that's kind of what I want us after today to do, is to sit down and compartmentalize. Okay, I did this well. It's not that what you did was wrong or bad, but you're going to do it on another scale, so you have to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the bacon analogy. If I bake one cake, and my grandmother was a baker, so I know these things a little bit, but then I'm going to multiply this recipe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take what normally would take 2 eggs, and now it's 6. So we're doing the same thing. We have these ingredients of a great business, a great brand, a great vision, but we're doing it on a larger scale. We have to evaluate the technical aspect of it. We have to make an equation. So if it takes me this much time, you do graphics. It takes me, 2-3 hours to do a graphic. Okay, I did that well. But then if I'm taking on one person who wants me to do all their graphics, so they're a return client, and they have weekly services or whatever they have, that's multiplying. And then you pick up another client. And so you realize I'm doing something weekly for this one, and now I'm taking on someone else. You have to kind of evaluate that.
Yeah.
And Nicole kind of slid. I love this because Nicole kind of slid into The other thing I wanted to talk about, which was expectation, and I know that Rico could talk about this because I've dealt with him on this. But Nicole mentioned about not being afraid to say no. And my breakdown of expectation is to set very clear expectations for yourself and for your clients, both ends, and be sure to discuss that. Don't be afraid to say what you can do and what you can't or won't do, and that you need to stay in your lane. And I also rewind it back to setting realistic time frames for work and for follow up. And with that, I want to say a disclaimer that I had to learn. If you go outside of those parameters of your time frames for work and follow up, do not be afraid to charge accordingly. That's something I struggled with. And so we'll break this down, but I have set hours. If I tell you the turnaround time for something is 72 hours, you need it in 24. Okay, great. There's a rush fee on that. They do, and everything else in the world there is. And so I know that Rico can talk about this because Rico works in the visual world. And Rico, whether it's audiovisual productions, whether it's graphics, he works in that world to know, okay, sometimes you get someone, hey, I need this done. Okay, great, it's this price. But then, oh, I need this done today. um, Realistic expectations. And especially with something like that, he can talk about the fact of I have other projects going on that need my attention. So I have to put those to the side to do yours to get it in that time frame. So Rico, help us out talking about expectation and being realistic in what we can handle. And you have to be honest with your client and honest with yourself on both sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the first things that comes to, right? And we've talked about it. We've said it. It's trial and error, first of all, because there's no way that I can now do what I do today and not have failed and failed forward. I did not I did not crumble. I did not say, "Oh, I'm just going to quit and give up." No, no, no. I kept going and I kept trying to figure out. But the funny thing is, I never had a plan B. I always kept my plan A. That's going to make sense in a second. So the capacity the capacity, watch this, of realistic expectation. You got capacity, you have realistic expectation. But what about the capacity of realistic expectation? And I had to learn that. Capacity of realistic expectation is simply knowing what I can and can't, but sometimes knowing if I do have to go over, what really is my limit before I burn out. I'm one, I will work and work and work and work and work, and I would burn out. And I got fussed at by my best, the host of this show. I got fussed at by him by plenty of time because I would just work. I wouldn't go out. I would go be just working. But one thing I realized, and that's one of the main things he said, is I have a lot of stuff I do. I'm a director of media at a few churches. I design weekly for churches. I design weekly for personal clients, for celebrities. I just released the International Women's Month Day template, and that everybody's been asking me for since February because they like the Black History one. Um Clients and countless celebrities, A-list celebrities, whoever you name, they've been coming to me. So we're talking about capacity, and I'm like, I just went from about 20 clients and maybe 5 weekly
Mhm.
to about 50, and they're known. Okay, I gotta do something about this. I gotta know that, first of all, and listen, I ain't come to all of this stuff and these conclusions by myself because first you gotta learn to listen. I might be a boss, but I'm not the biggest boss. I do not know everything.
That is
So
good.
once you realize that you don't know everything, that will make room for you to learn everything, because your capacity then becomes your limits because you think you know everything. Your limits then become your capacity because you think you know everything. I said it front with and backwards on purpose. But I want to explain this capacity thing because we're not just talking about how many clients we have. We're not just talking about how many flyers we do a day, or how many people we publish, or how many we help do this and that. We're not talking about just that, but the capacity that we're also talking about is the self-care capacity. Because you can't do nothing for nobody when you are a mess and you have been burnt out. That's just the truth. And I had to learn that because I even saw it in the decrease of the quality of my work. Then I really realized, okay, I'm tired of getting fussed out by everybody. I'm
Talk
tired of
about
my work
that.
starting to look bad. Because we won't talk about that and we won't admit. But as a graphic designer, listen, it's not thrown together, but the quality has gone down because baby, I'm tired. I done did 15 flyers today. If we want to be realistic and we're talking about realistic capacity, I do at least 30 flyers a day. Yeah, didn't think I would ever be able to do that. But somehow I also press and I pray and I seek the face of God too. So listen, because I don't do none of this without God. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that now. But altogether, I really had to learn that my time really is worth something. If y'all are wanting this, you're gonna pay for it. There's no way you go into Gucci and you gonna say, "Hey, I want this, but I'll come back and pay for it later." Absolutely not, because you at least have to put a discount on it or layaway of some sort. So I realized that this realistic expectation and the capacity I had to take on real company and corporate policy expectation. Though I may be one in myself an entity and I now have a team, we are still like every other company. And a lot of people, can I just go to say this? A lot of people, they don't want to agree, but baby, we not a black business because we black. No, 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 no. My business is called Boss Visual Productions, a creative luxury firm. That means I have to know who I am before you understand who I am and before you would want to adhere to the procedures that I set because then I just released it the other day. I have new consultation fees. Baby, your first 20 minutes are free. But I've learned people like to get me on the phone and they like to have all these conversations. But my time is worth money, but it's worth creating. And you got to respect me and my value. And if you don't respect me and my value, you don't respect my business enough for my business to be afforded to you. It's called realistic expectation. The capacity to know that unless you think your business or whatever you may do is of quality of everyone else's and even greater, because you would never be anything that you've limited yourself to be. You would never go beyond the limited expectation because you limited yourself to be that. You put yourself in a box and then you expect to build a whole house inside of a box. What are you going to do with that? It's called realistic expectation. Knowing what I have, knowing what I can do. And when I can't do it, baby, I'm going to communicate to you and tell you I can't. And a lot of my clients, they'll tell you, and I'll sit up here and they all probably comment up here and tell you, I'm doing all of their flyers at one time. So I might finish one of theirs, send it, finish another one, send it, and then got to come back tomorrow and finish the other one. But the priority, here we go. Rush fees, they're real. They're real. You want expedited shipping? You got to pay like $11 or 12 or how whatever that site costs, and you'll pay that. Cause I done bought Gucci and then they had to expedite it, and I paid like $50 extra because I wanted it the next day. So you'll pay for what you want. They'll pay for what you want. We as a people, as the boss, as the CEO, as the whatever we may say, we have to realize, hey there, we are the standard. And I posted the other day, we are the brand. It takes passion, purpose, and persistence. And if you're not persistent in your purpose and passion, baby, they're gonna take it for granted. They've done it for me. Just like he said, that realistic capacity. Oh, because I thought when I first started getting popular, y'all, I thought I was everything. Oh, I was taking on all the clients I could. It wasn't about no money. It was because I just knew I was popular. But baby, An untrained gift is like having no gift at all.
Oof.
I'm a year my floor.
Well, I told y'all he could drive that home because I know in that field and expertise that he has, a lot come with that, which is why I'm no longer in it. And we thank God. Um, he said a lot that went over what we've already talked about, but even some of the things that in these next couple of lives that we're going to do that we're going to talk about because again, structure is such a huge topic. Um, Even when we're going over definitions, Enrico kind of gave his own definitions. But to me, when I think structure, I think of the body. I think about the spine and keeping things in alignment and in place and in position, and how if things are not held together in the right way, things can drift and shift. And why I said that I think something that's unstructured is dangerous because we talked about burnout, but there's more sides to that. There is a side to where you can go too far too fast, and you can get ahead of yourself. And we, like I said, we've all seen things that get off to a great start, but they don't reach anywhere. They have great potential, and I don't want any of us, our story to be why they had such great potential. I want our story to be that they reach high heights and deep depths because we have structure in place. We're gonna come to a close here because I told y'all we weren't gonna be all night, so I'm gonna start wrapping things up a bit. But I wanna pose a thought to you that what if better structure increased your capacity and therefore increased your revenue? What if? What if you having systems in place gave you higher capacity? We talked about capacity can change. What if putting a plan in place, putting structure in place, putting forms and formats and strategies increase your capacity to do more, which of course is going to increase your revenue? That's what we're doing here. It's not my job, and what I often tell clients is that my job is not to tell you what you're doing wrong. I evaluate. Do I evaluate for efficiency? So I can tell you that's great what you're doing. Here's how we can do it better. Here's how we can do what you're doing with one person and put it with 10 clients or in one way and make 10 streams of income off the same idea. Efficiency is what I'm good at. So what if I want to pose that question? So I want to talk about something really, really quickly, and I'm going to have our guests who have done a great job tonight kind of leave us with a thought. But I want to leave with you kind of what we've talked about. Having structure, when you start something, have an idea is great. What's your purpose? What's your mission statement? Who's your target audience? And then what's the structure for it? So in the coming sessions, we're going to talk about forms, documents, outlines, agreements, and contracts. We're going to talk about having standardized greetings, having auto responses. Most of us on here have talked about being a party of one. There's no excuse. This is 2023. There's no excuse because I do this on my own for not being able to reach higher heights. You can go into your email and create a signature. You can have an answering message on the phone that you can structure things in such a way, whether you have money for a line or whether you're doing Google
And
Voice.
honestly, you don't even need none of that because your Facebook pages that you make and you don't know how to work, baby, you can set up an auto response. Come over to my page and send me a message at Boss Visual Productions, and then you're gonna see where we still have our COVID response out. Everybody gets that same response. You go over to the email. All of our emails end with the best, my name, whoever I am, wherever you can contact me. All of this stuff is important. So I just kind of wanted to insert that.
Absolutely. It changed when I learned about things like auto responses changed my life. And you go in there and put options to where when they contact you, they immediately get a message. There's no delay. You don't have to stop and do anything. They immediately get a message, and that message could have options. Hey, with the list of services, if you're interested in this, you're interested in this service.
You want to
And,
know what mine is?
and it
As
makes
soon as
sense.
you contact, it says, "Hey, thank you for contacting me. I'll get back to you as soon as possible." So
Think
you're not waiting and acting like this is an entire conversation because you may want to be personable like I am because everything I do is tailored to the brand, the person, the business, the ministry, whoever. So my I'm gonna come back to you. But then, like you said, you can insert your own questions, your own frequently asked questions that will trigger a response. that says, hey, okay, where can I find more information? You can put that and then put your answer. So whenever they send back whatever they send back, the answer comes and it takes them to that page. It happens on Instagram, it happens on Facebook, it happens in your email, it happens on your website. And if I could just put this out there before I be quiet, professional pictures, professional pictures, professional pictures. That's all.
Which is true. But even something as simple as that, it takes a matter of minutes to set up an auto response. How much time does that save you? How much time? Our our response time matters. And that's a whole nother topic about how we conduct ourselves in business affects our capacity. But how much time does that save you? But also, how many times do you get messages from people and it's a week later before you see them or you get a chance to respond? So these are things that are going to greatly assist us. And that same token, standardized greetings, auto responses, email signatures, phone greetings. Um, I work with a lot of people in the entertainment industry. I'm amazed every time I come across someone, whether it's a musician, singer, songwriter, who doesn't have a writer, which is just a basic contract that outlines standard things. Of course, we can make adjustments based on what this agreement is, but off the top, this is what I charge. And it brings, I think Rico mentioned it, Nicole may have as well, and it was in the comments about protection. We are uncomfortable talking about money. Even as entrepreneurs and business owners, it makes us uncomfortable. I don't know why. But we get uncomfortable, and part of that is knowing your worth and growing into those things. But so having things like a standard writer, having whether it's a graphic or something in place, structure again that says these are the services I offer and these are the prices, even if it's starting at range. I shouldn't have to every time someone's interested, oh, how much you charge for this? Let me think about it. No, we need to have prices in place, and that requires work on our end. So some of it we just don't want to do the work. And this is my starting rate. This is what I offer for this. Whether it's a monthly service or overall, your structure is going to help you. And it helps you having those conversations. If it's an auto response or a template I have in place or a graphic, when you reach out to me, you're going to get it back and say, hey, this is what I offer. How much? Immediately, you and I both know if it's not in your price range, you're not going to respond. And if you do, then I can go forward with comfort knowing, okay, this is someone who's serious about what they're doing, and we can have a conversation. I'm very big on weeding out people who are not really interested.
Right.
You talk about money, and people who really thought they were really interested aren't interested anymore. And we've all worked to a certain point to be able to charge what we're worth for these things. So all those things are important. So we're going to keep talking about that. My goal again is to mentor creatives to have structure. So I would implore you, if you are starting a new one or you are actively have a business, because it does exist and it does happen, go back to the beginning of the drawing board. Look at your blueprint. Do you have a target audience? Have you written out your mission statement? Do you know what your purpose is? And can you communicate that? Because those are two different things, to know what it is and to be able to communicate it. Do you have structure in place? What's the first method of contact that people have with you? It should be standard. Every time someone reaches out to you concerning business, the response should be the same. Now, from that, depending on the information you get, you can go forward. But that first initial greeting should always be the same thing. Consistency is very big. That's structure. Then from there, do you have documents in place? Do you have templates for whatever you do? When you do a consultation, what does that template look like? I have one, and I go in so the first time I talk to a new client, just in that interest part, they get an auto response, and we kind of get a feel for, they can check, this is the services that I need. Before I go into a consultation, I've done my research, so I know who you are. I know what your brand is. So when I come there, I already come with a plan in place. I've researched, I'm looking over things. I said, they do that really well, but they could do that a little bit different. They don't need that at all. And I come into the consultation with that on my end. But I conduct my consultation based off the conversation that we have. I have questions, I have forms, literally. When they, and one of my administrators, she can talk about this. When we first installed it in place, when you said, hey, I'm interested, I want to do a consultation, you got an email with 3 forms that you fill out on your time, and you can turn them into me or bring them to the consultation if it was in person. So then we're not trying to get here in this 30 minutes and make magic happen. We're just putting plans into place and discussing it because my time is valuable. And because I'm careful about my capacity, I can't spend 3 hours here trying to get the ball rolling. So I make smart decisions based on my capacity. And we come into that consultation. I have your forms. We talk a little bit, but most of that time is actual plan implementation. And that's why I can have consultations where most people just get a consultation to figure it out. Mine are no, you have a plan in place already and you walk away with it because I've done the pre work. So, do you have forms? Do you have standard agreements for your services? Or are you taking contracts from people and there's nothing on documentation?
Can I give some free tips tonight, real quick?
Go ahead.
Because of what you're saying, I think I just want to go ahead and give these free tips. Like I said, everybody knows these, but it goes over everybody's head. So get brand you like your favorite colors that work for you. This is where you're consistent and your look comes in. And then guess what? There's a lot of websites out there. If you don't have the money to go to a designer, go to a creator. You may could still go to a graphic designer like myself and say, "Hey, I don't have it right now. I get paid such and such. Hey, I don't have it right now, but I really, really such and such, and this is how it's going." If you talk and communicate, you may be able to talk us into because we have discernment. Okay, and I would say that probably for any of us up here, because I know it for sure, and I know where we all come from. So I know what we have. But I'm saying there's a lot of websites out there that has templates. You don't know what to do. There's a such thing called a basic landing page. What this landing page is your picture, your name, your bio, your contact. That's all you need. If it's not that simple, there's this thing called a link tree. It's an app you can download that connects all your social media together, and you can send that link out. It puts all your music up there, your clothes, your merch, all of that stuff. So there's simple solutions, but you have to not look over them because you either want someone else to do it or you're just too lazy to do it, or rather, you're procrastinating and you don't really want to admit that you don't know how to do it. And I only be able to say that because I've come into consultations where I've spent hours trying to explain to one client. They keep asking, "What can you do for me?" And I done told them everything I can offer. Okay, what can you do for me? I done told them a whole the grade that I give on the brand when once you go, when you dissect their brand and everything they have, I say A, B, C, or D, or F. I'm really blunt. So if I tell you got an F, you really did. That means you haven't done any work. So you got to at least like have not done anything for me to say that there's nothing to work with. Like he said, we've all been it a while. So whatever you have, your ideas, your babble, like all the psychotic thoughts that you think you have it, I promise you they're not because somebody like one of us is going to understand when you bring it. But you got to have that plan. Your mission comes from that brainstorming, that jotting down all of those ideas. So jot forms also you trying to figure out contracts or how to get forms together. How do I get these people to answer what I need them to? How do I make it consistent? Go to Jot Form. Jot Form has a bunch of templates that says, "Hey," breaks it down. Your name, yeah, all of the stuff that you may need for a specific anything. I'm just trying to help you. You don't have the money for a photographer? Set up your phone. Most of us have iPhone. Set up your phone. Put your phone on 10 seconds. Find you a solid background and good lighting and smile pretty. You have a great quality photo for your designer or anybody that needs it to use. Right now, you could still screenshot this and you'll be able to cut every last one of us out of here. Listen, I just small tips and they're really easy. Again, also that other thing is go into those pages that you have set up on Facebook. It's called an auto response. You can search it literally in the Facebook search. Auto response. And it'll go and take you to it and teach you how to set it up if you don't know how to do that. But I promise you, we're out here to help. But just so you have no longer an excuse after tonight, there's more of these coming. I think you said every 2 weeks or
Yeah,
something like, and then there's a podcast the next day. The first podcast is what, March 16th, and it's available everywhere. You can go and hear this. This is the free consultation. This is those free webinars. This is why we say our information, our worth, it's a value because
absolutely.
we had to struggle to get where we are. Jesus didn't just become Jesus. He had to become man, walk the earth, go through hell, get put up on a cross, prove that he was the son of God by not reacting and being emotional, and then died and then resurrected. And that's when he became known for who he is. It doesn't take your response all the time. Just do what you need to. Focus on you and your business. I said all the time, mind the business that pay you. If it don't pay you, it don't need your opinion. You got to
Listen.
pay to have an opinion. If they're not paying you, they can't have an opinion. Listen, if they're always bargaining about prices, don't. It's a trap. I'm telling you now because they'll go out and buy a pair of J's as soon as they come out. People done gone out here, and I'll say it again. They went out here and bought a Banaka concert ticket, and they ain't gonna pay rent. But we're doing all of this, but we won't focus on our purpose and our goal when the easiest things are out there. You don't have one of us. The internet teaches you how to do it. YouTube teaches you how to do it. Google teaches you how to do it. There's master classes, and we're about to actually start doing master classes for specific creativity or arts or whatever form or however you want to put it. I don't got all the words right now tonight, so I don't can't sound eloquent and smart. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. That we're not just spending time up here to waste our precious time and gifts. We have wealth that we can be creating because
Absolutely.
all of us are busy. But we know that we also don't have people that will take time like this and say, hey, come, come, come. We're on social media. We came to you. We didn't say you had to buy a ticket. We didn't say you had to drive here. We didn't say you had to waste gas. We say, do what you always do. Click on social media, scroll on social media, comment, ask your questions. Not many questions have been asked, but this is the point of why we're talking about structure. A closed mouth, my granny will always say, baby, it can't get fed. It can't. And I've learned that because I wanted food and she wouldn't give me nothing till I open my mouth and ask. So until, like he said, you make that mission, you make that purpose, you know at least what you want to do, kind of. Because a lot of people also, and if I can address this too, stop going to your people without ideas. I posted it. I said it, and I'm gonna stand and I'll say it again. Graphic designers are not your event planner. Baby, you gotta pay that fee. And I think all of us would agree. You can't come to us to get us to plan out all of this if your faith without work is dead. You're not putting in work. What do you want us to do? I know we have biblical people up here. I can teach you biblical principle too. Come on. You don't go to work every day, you don't get paid. There's no food. You can't pay your bills. Basic life principle. I just really want to help you before we get off and let you know what else we're gonna get into. Because I didn't really talk but my little tad bits. But I just kind of wanted to give this to you. Because we this is a creative collective group. And if you don't get it by now, I really don't know what to tell you. That's all.
I love it. I love it. I love platforms like this where you can be honest. Like I said, we all have a story. We have all started somewhere. We all have successful brands, but they didn't start that way. Um, and all of us, I know for a fact, have a heart to mentor and to share what we've learned. It's so much to come. It's so much. Rico kind of touched on some of it, but even in what I teach in administration, whether it's coaching or consulting. I'm not about the money. So I'm about the learning experience. So I can give you websites, I can give you apps and tricks and tools. I was just talking to someone about documentation. I was like, you have a Google email account. You can go in there. You have a Google Drive to keep your stuff in a centralized place. You can create forms. You can create spreadsheets. You can literally. We were talking because again, This is not with the thought process that everyone has the funding to do things on a grand scale. It's about intentionality. Capacity is so much more about that than about funding. And then you'll get to a place where you can do things a more efficient way. But if you have to use Google and Google Docs, and I have to make my spreadsheets there, I can go in there and make a form. Literally go into Google for free, make a form, put my images on there, and you can fill in the form, check boxes, drop boxes, or multiple choice. Then you have to do that. But some of us don't have the tools. We haven't been taught. So we're going to do sessions specifically talking about that. But that's at Creative Collective, that's what we do. We said all of this to say that we need structure. Structure helps us get where we got to go and get there a lot faster. Nicole said it. And at Creative Collective, no matter what your brand, what industry you're in, we can help you make that more efficient. You can come to us and say, this is what I'm doing. How do I do it more efficiently? Whether you don't have your SOPs in place, whether you don't have forms and documents, if every time you do something with someone it looks different, you don't have structure. It has to be a centralized point of focus. And then depending on what that is for that clientele, you make adjustments. But you shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You should have something to start from. So that's what we're saying. I want to ask my guest before we got out of here to, based on the concept that we're talking about now, growth and capacity, what are two things that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started your brand and business? And that could be anything. It doesn't have to be just along the lines of structure that we're talking about, but anything that you know now as a creative, as an entrepreneur, as someone who works in the industry of media, or someone who works in the industries of social services, as someone who works in the industry of writing and listen, I kind of get upset with Libra when I hear her limited to a writer because it's so much more than that. That's why I use the word scribe. And as you heard tonight, we're real churchy. But bringing things to life and putting visions to words, because that's what she does in telling stories. And that, guys, what do you know now that if you could go back in time and tell yourself that would save you a lot of time? Two things. Let's start with Libra.
Two things: trust the process and trust God through it all. I say those two things because when I started my publishing house back in 2017, I literally stopped everything because of the level of overwhelmness. Instead of trusting the process, I said, okay, this is too much for me. I did not sign up for this. Plus, I'm still working a 9 to 5, going through life's challenges, things of that nature, and I stopped. Um, so I would say trust the process, and then also say trust God through it all. Because when God gave me the vision to do this particular endeavor, after I've been prophesied, I've been told, I've been voluntold, if you will, uh, by our pastor, it was like, oh, no, this is not what I signed up for. I'm a licensed counselor. This is not what this is. So, okay. But at that particular time, I wasn't writing. But as the word was spoken and I was graced to do it, if you will, a lot of things start coming to fold. I got more binders around here than anything because I do take notes. That's what Nicole was saying. It's important that once the vision or idea comes to mind, it's wise to write it down, because as I go through my binders now, stuff I wrote back in 2017, like Beautifully Human, I wrote that back in 2017. That didn't come out in 2022. I wrote that like 5, 6 years ago. But you start discovering that things that you write down now, you might not need it now, but you might need it later. But even in that process, it's essential that you do be intentional about what you do, about how you do it. Because if you don't have that structure, you're going to feel the overwhelmness, you're going to feel the overbearingness, but then also the overlook. because other people, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, other people go seek somebody else, and then you looking like, why they overlooking me? That's because you weren't consistent in your idea, if you will, or even your vision that was given to you. Because I don't believe God would give you something that He's not going to give you the provision to do it. But you have to trust the process through it all, even though it might not look the way you want it to look. But you have to walk through it. You have to walk it out, if you will. You have to work your faith, because as you move, that's when the things start coming to place. That's where everything start. All the pieces of the puzzle within the structure is going to formulate in order for it to be the manifestation that was given to you as you see. It might not be something overnight. It might not be something that happened within a month's time or whatever. But it is something that is essential that you do manage, but also be consistent with it. So as I if you will, redo some things, because I don't believe in launching things because it's already been started. I didn't press pause. I mean, I didn't stop it. I just pressed pause. So as I unpause myself and go through the process, um, there are some challenges, if you will, but there are some things that I had to see within my own self and redefine moments and get rid of false humility, if you will, in order for me to do what I have been called and chosen to do within this journey called life.
Wow, she said get rid of false humility. We won't even preach about that. We won't even do Nicole, what for you in your journey? What are two things that you wish you knew when you started this that you know now?
Real quick, first is you don't have to be perfect or have things perfectly lined out to get started. Sometimes we think, well, when life is perfect, when this happens, when 1 + 1 = 2, then I'll do it. Then I know it's time. We think we need things to look a certain way before we get started. Think we need certain resources or a certain amount of knowledge to start out, but you don't. Start where you are now. Start where you are now. And the second thing, kind of related, is you are enough. Where you are right now is enough. You can get from where you are to where you need to be. You have what you need right now. I have been thinking of this for the past about year. And I think this is something that's really sticking with me, is that we are uniquely equipped with unorthodox experience for an unusual endeavor. And so that means that everything that we've been doing and experienced in our life, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, work experience, school, relationships, everything that we experience is equipping us for our future. And then this knowledge that we have, that we've gained from these experiences, relational experiences, work experiences, learning experiences, just life, is unique to us, and it's just what we need to get us where we need to be. And we don't always notice it in the moment, why we're in this moment, why something's happening the way it's happening, how this thing is going to work out for us, or how it can benefit us. But when we get there, we'll see it. When it's time to use that, when it's time to pull on that experience, or that skill, you have it there. So don't wait. Don't keep questioning whether or not you're good enough, whether or not you have what you need, whether or not you're from the right place, you have the right background. Stop doubting yourself. Stop putting down yourself and saying you can't do it. You don't have what they have. But if you had this, you would do it. You're enough. You're enough. You have exactly what you need to start where you are right now.
That's amazing because I am guilty of that. And it's not living in regret. But I often look back and say if I would have started sooner, instead of waiting for things to be what I thought they needed to be, I would be so much further. And I absolutely believe in God's timing. But there are hindrances we do to ourselves. Everything is a learning experience, and yeah, I could be yeah. You summed it up really really
Yeah.
good. You are enough, and you have to trust where you are, that the pieces will fall into place, that the processes, the structure will get you where you need to go.
Will
So
get you where you need to go. It'll
absolutely.
get you where
You,
you need
you
to
couldn't
go.
tell, like Libra. Nicole is a minister of the gospel as well. I'm telling you, these alliterated points is taking me, these 3 points is giving me what I need.
Yeah.
And I'm loving the responses in the comments too. We do this to help. And so to see people saying, this is where I am, that this is what I need. I see myself in what they're saying. That's beautiful to me. We're going to hit Rico so that we can get out of here. It's almost 9 o'clock. And so, I'm gonna eat dinner, go to bed. Rico, what are 2 things that you know now in the realm of everything that you do that you wish you knew in the beginning?
Well, first, giving honor to God, who's the head of my life. To the only true and wise God, our Savior, Majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. No, um, I'm about to say something that is going to definitely sound super unorthodox. I not like them. Definitely a minister of God. So I won't hit the 3 points, or probably will. I'm just let you. Yeah, I'm gonna give you what I got. First, I want to say, become, become, be, and then come, and then become, and then be, and then come, and then continue being, and then be, and then live in your be, and then be proud of your be, but become. Nothing that anybody else do will make you become unless you fight for it or you do the work. That book that he talked about ain't got nothing to do with self help. It's all self work. You got to do the work. I said it earlier, faith without work is dead. The Bible talk about moving mountains. Guess how you move mountains? You still got to open your mouth. You talk about Peter and how the disciplines was over there on the sea catching fish. And the only thing they had to do, I begged the argument. Listen, the first time, cause okay, let me tell you why I say that. Because he was okay. They said put your net out, right, and they put it out, and then they didn't really catch none. And then Jesus came and he said put it on the other side, and then they start asking him all these questions. They started doubting themselves and the advice that they just got, knowing that what they just did didn't work. Okay, so then they finally decided to listen to Jesus. Watch this. A lot of people think it's a miracle, but can I tell you, it was an example of what disobedience can do. They put out the net and then it broke. So everything that they were supposed to gather and everything they did gather, they didn't catch all of it. Uh-oh. What if they would have listened the first time? Do you think they would have had the capacity to hold it all? And if they just was being and who they became? I just that. Oh, my other thing is be a hoarder. Oh, that sounds bad, doesn't it? Okay. What I mean by that, you know the story, you know what it is, the person that keeps drunk, all of that. Right. But we never talk about the emotional junk or the emotional damage or the heartbreak or all of the stuff that we keep and we make secrets from ourselves that keep us from getting to our destiny and our purpose. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you is the graveyard to your destiny and purpose is comparison. So you really got to not okay, maybe I should slow down. But you got to be a hoarder because once you go through that process of hoarding, right? You then know that that show it tells about how all these people were hurt, da 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 da. But in this case, I'm gonna be selfish and tell you to be selfish too. It don't matter. Be selfish. You got to do the work because you will not get past, and you will not love, and you will not create, and you will not help from your full capacity if you're hoarding. Watch this. So get organized. Clean out the junk. Do the work to get rid of the damage. Take the classes if you got to. Get support if you got to. Okay, let me help you right there. Everybody don't believe in you. Stop putting all your business on social media. Your business is their business. It's yours. God gave you the vision. How they gonna see it? They not. The Bible said that my people lack they perish from the lack of knowledge. How do you think they gonna see your vision if people are already perishing because they don't want to listen? Okay, let me. I'm gonna bring it around home, and then I'm gonna be done. The children of Israel, right? They were stuck in Egypt, and then they got out, right? Their bodies got out. However, could I suggest to you tonight that their minds still lingered because they did not do the work. They still was disobedient. They did not take on structure. I'm talking about what we're talking about tonight. They didn't take on structure. Then they had to spend all that other time when it was already promised to them. It was already built. It was already established. So what if I was to ask you a question? Can I ask you this tonight? What if your investors are just waiting on you to show proof that you want it? They didn't ask you for a business plan. They didn't ask you for figures in 5 years. They didn't ask you for your future. They just said, "Do you want it?" And then you went, I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm not in that place. I don't want to do it. It's the same thing in the church with mantles and all of this stuff, and we weren't gonna talk about that. But baby, structure, structure. So become and be a hoarder. That's all I got for you.
Wow. he he pulled that in because yeah, absolutely. The journey. I'm telling y'all, go get the book. Rico is a true creative. The way that his brain moves. Get the book. I'm telling you. Um, I appreciate all of three of you and everyone who's tuned in tonight. Um, this is a start to something amazing. Um, because there's so much work to be done. I want our people to stop having great ideas.
We lost him. But can I add, Rico, to what you were saying? So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said something about the Israelites. The promised land was right there. But
Yes, ma'am.
because they weren't listening, because they didn't have structure, they stayed there. And like I said at the beginning, you're on your way somewhere, but when you're not following the plan, you can get detoured and delayed. But if you follow the plan, and it begins with what you also said, Rico, is that you do have to do some emotional work before you get started. That is very key because a lot of times we find what is delaying us, what is deterring us, is our fear. It is a feeling of unworthiness. It is a feeling that because of your background, there's something going on that keeps you from doing it. And you do have to address that because you want to be able to move forward towards your destiny. And you do have to unpack those things, and let those things go, because they will weigh on your mind. And it's no small feat to strike out on this journey as a creative, whatever that looks like. And so you have to do that emotional work up front. I just finished a 6-month speaking class, and one of the things the speaker coach, who is nationally known, she's a phenomenal. But one of the things she does, she spends a lot of time on this. I've watched her in other settings. She spends a lot of time on working with the person, and it's do you believe you can do this, and getting people to understand you have the value, you have the knowledge, you have the experience. And like Rico said, I can charge X amount of dollars because I have X amount of years, but we doubt it. We don't think what we have is good enough or worthy enough. And so when we really look at it and evaluate ourselves and what we bring to the table, then we develop our worth and our value, and then we can put that dollar figure on it. But just want to throw that in there. You said a couple of things in your sermon that really blessed me, and I look, Rico,
Love it.
Rico, I've been taking notes, man. And Libra had the alliteration. I know Libra, so I'm like, Libra is gonna come with some alliteration off the top of her head. She'll come with it. But it's been a pleasure talking with you all tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And if you wanted to piggyback Libra off anything,
Well, I would honestly say that was a great concept you shared because oftentimes we do miss that part. We want to take the microwave process instead of the hot, crock pot experience. People don't want to take the journey and embrace the journey. They want to go from plan A to plan B to plan C all the way to Z real quick. But then if somebody was to ask them how did you get from A to B, they wouldn't know how to share. They just wanted it real quick. They wanted fast money, if you will. And I think that's one of the things we miss in life. Like I actually went through this process of feeling that pressure, if you will, of degrading myself because I should have went through my process. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't want to go through the process. I just felt that overwhelmness, if you will. But then times now, um, having a redo. But like Nicole was saying, you have to look within yourself. You got to get yourself together. So that was one of the challenges I dealt with was to take a step back and challenge my own self to define the moment within me because I can't help other people to define their own moment if I don't define it within my own self and be realistic about it because as a licensed counselor, you know the steps of counseling and helping other people, but it's a different feel when you have to define it within your own self. And oftentimes we miss that part because we're so gravitated to listen to other people and what they define us as. But when we need to define it within our own selves and what God told us what we are or who we are and what we shall be, going back to what you were saying. And that's one of the things where we have to reestablish not only our goals but our dreams and aspirations. We have to redefine what's important and what's not. Um, and then we also have to rediscover things that we put upon our own selves is probably not even a factor in life anymore because we're so gun ho of listening to other people instead of listening to what has been established within our own selves. So sometimes process is necessary. Sometimes setbacks is necessary. That's how we learn to grow. But then we also have to learn and understand too. Don't beat ourselves up or don't overwhelm ourselves just because we made mistakes. Sometimes mistakes are necessary to help the next person that we have to carry over and understand this is why we went through that so we can help the next person come behind us.
Listen, Libra has given us about 4 sets of alliterative points. We can't hear you, Rico. You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Still don't hear you, Rico.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I was agreeing first of all and saying that uh yeah, she wrecked us already tonight, and there's no way I was prepared for this, and she gave amazing nuggets, and like I said, being in this, um, you're not the biggest boss, right? That's one of the one point I wanted to drive from what she just said. So you don't know everything, and until you do that work, you won't see the fulfillment of what it can be, right? I'm not the best prognosticator or not rather or rather I don't know how to really exegete the text and all of the good words, but we're talking about the creator. We're talking about Jesus, who was the creator, God, who was the creator. The first thing that he did was created. He spoke. He said, "Let there be," over something that was dark. He had to bring structure in his creation in order for the system to work. There had to be a system, a totality rather of a system for it to work. Not only that, the comprehension of that system. And one thing that I believe that Kate was going to say before he got off, or before all of what was happening, was I want our people to stop having great ideas with nothing to show for it. I oftentimes use the analogy, we like Disney, Cinderella. She went through all of this with stepsisters, and then had a fairy godmother, and then had a magical night, and the only thing she had to show for it is just a glass slipper. Only thing she had to show for a night that she's waited on her entire life. And the only thing she actually had to do was to listen and to know who she was. Okay, I'll take it a little more churchy with Disney. Let's talk about Lion King. Simba. Come on, Simba and Mufasa. There was a whole little scene, right? With Rafiki and Mufasa and Simba. He came back on the clouds and he came and told his son after Simba had forgotten who he was because he went through what life throws at him.
Yeah.
He went through the things life threw
Hmm.
at him. It's just normal things. It's nothing that we can dig, dodge out, inside out. Can't blame it on God. Can't blame it on the devil. Can't. No, it just happened.
Right.
And so he forgot about who he was. And then all of a sudden, this purple monkey came and hit him over the head with a stick and said, "I know it hurt, but that was seconds ago."
Right. Right. Listen, Rico,
Yes, ma'am.
Rico, you said about her not being ready, the
Yeah.
Cinderella not being ready. You
Yes, ma'am.
remember when Popeyes wasn't ready?
Right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They had
Give
a
us that
pivotal
analogy.
moment and they were not prepared for it. They weren't prepared for their own success.
You know what? I get to call him my pawpaw, uh, Pastor Pat. He always talks about this one thing, and it's one of the points that I was driving home, which is mismanaging the moment. We have all been so
Yeah.
uh, well guilty of
Mhm.
mismanaging our moment.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is why we've taken the 2 hours tonight to
Hmm.
talk about this. And
Hmm.
I'm using all the analogies I am because maybe the big words or the Bible may turn you off, or the big words may turn you off, or you may not understand. So if I can break it down and I can tell you that sometimes it hurt, but somebody has to tell you that you got to remember who you are. You got to remember what the mandate always was. Because
Yeah,
sometimes it was on us to get
yeah,
lost in the shadows when we was already told everything the light touches belongs to us.
right,
So
right.
we started going off and we started traveling and getting caught in what we wanted to do. And again, then we try to blame and put that responsibility on somebody else. But
Yeah,
we got off the path and we know that he said, "Hey,
yeah,
don't go over there because it's dark. You don't know
yeah,
what the dangers are.
yeah,
I do, but I'm telling you because I know. Don't go over there." He still went over there. Now all of this had to unfold, and then you
right.
had to have somebody come and remind you, and then you had to have a moment. Watch this with the God in yourself that had to remind you, "Hey, no, 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 no. I call you. It was a
Yeah,
mandate I put in you."
yeah,
And this is maybe to give some momentum to creators tonight. But you've been called. Your moment is now, and you cannot afford to mismanage your moment again.
don't mismanage it.
You don't want to spend another 40 nights and days and things in the wilderness. For what? And let me help you. Your wilderness is just you not knowing what's going on. You're not supposed to.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to know everything. You just got to know how to let go and trust the process, like we've been talking about. The same process and systems we put in place for our business.
mm-hmm.
And so we have to still go to that
Mm-hmm.
Mufasa and say, "Hey, remember who
Mm-hmm.
we are. Remember who we were called to be. Remember what we were called to do. Even though it's hard, you got to
Yeah,
remember."
yeah, yeah.
That's one of the points I want to drive. Remember who you are.
Remember who you are.
Because the more you throw yourself away, the more you compare yourself, the more you don't do the work. Because yeah, life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And what?
Yeah,
We're supposed to continue to hurt by it? No. Feel what you feel and take up your bed. Hey man, at the pool, it's been 30 something years and you still there. How did it take you that long for somebody to come and tell you to get up and just press to
yeah,
get to the pool, to a place that is secured? to a place that is beneficial, to a place that you can be helped. But
Mhm.
you gotta press, you gotta put,
You gotta press, you
and
gotta
there's
press.
nothing beyond that. What we've talked about within this creative structure tonight, within biblical principle, within Disney, within the cartoon, all of it all adds to being creatively structured. We all are in different sectors of business, and we are all in ministry, and really all under the same leadership. You heard what we said? We all have our own business, and we might be in different sectors, but we all have leadership, somebody we submit to. That administration, it goes along in the church too. We have creatives in the church being mishandled. That's why writers and contracts and everything else is important. This is what this was about. Where it's time to stop just saying, "Oh, we need the help," and now we're doing it. Every 2 weeks, we'll be back talking to you, helping you out, because Tyler said it best in 2019 at the BET Awards. He said it's all about helping somebody cross. While y'all over there in Hollywood talking about how everything over here is going on and the Oscars so white, Oscars so white, I'm gonna be down here in Atlanta building my own table. Because one thing I know for sure, two things for certain, that if I build it, he has to bless it. Because he said, if I prepare my table, I'm he'll prepare it. But what work are you going to do to get to your table? You said you were called. You said this is your time. You don't have a business plan though. You don't write down your ideas. You said you're a singer. You don't have voice memos. You said you're a writer. What book have you written? You said you're a writer. What plays have you written? Okay, better yet, you said you're a call. What chapter of the book have you studied? And not just read while you was at church, but study to show thyself approved. What workmen need not be made ashamed. If you rightly divide structure, oh boy, I'm saying the same thing over and over. So I'm gonna let
Listen,
Kai take it, and I'm done.
okay, Rico gonna take us there. You better jump in.
Churchy. Churchy.
Very. I love it.
I went through all my devices at the same time. So I'm on the third of those devices. And we went over time. It got good. And then I had technical difficulties, but I appreciate everyone for being a part tonight. Again, the takeaway is structure is necessary. And if you've started something, it doesn't mean you scrap what you started with, but go back to the beginning. Sit down and determine your why, your who, your how, and make sure that you have structure in place. If something we've talked about today sparked with you and you are needing to put structure into place, reach out to me. Facebook, you're here, so you have access to some of these. But Facebook, Shekinah Mitchell, Creative Collective Group is our business page. Instagram at Creative Guru Kai, or Instagram at Creative Collective CG. But reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. You may not know where to start. What does structure look like? Hopefully after tonight, you know that. We're going to be back again. Again, you will not see these faces for the last time tonight. You will see them more, I am sure. But again, I want to thank Rico. I want to thank Libra and Nicole for taking time out of their night to go over this information so that we can help someone who can get to their next, because they know now what structure looks like and how to have that in place. I'm just going to pray over us really quickly, and then we'll say goodnight to you guys. Father God, we thank you for this night. Thank you for each and everything that was said, for each and every person that tuned in. We ask that they will walk away today with understanding, but also with application of how to do what you've called us to do. We know that we do nothing outside of you, and that everything that we are is because of you. And so we want to take each and every nugget that we've learned from one another to grow and to help each other flourish as a kingdom and as a people. And God, I ask you to watch over us, keep us protected until we come again at the appointed time. In your son Jesus' name we pray. And amen. I love you all.